Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Friday Night Young at Heart, featuring nursery rhymes, stories, songs, poems, Mother Goose, Aesop's fables, Lewis Carroll, limericks, larks, epic stories of the great operas. We should get back to some operas after this. And such, to keep us all young at heart. I'm Father James Diluzio. Tonight we continue with the adventures of Pinocchio by Carlo Collodi. Tonight, chapters 6, 7, and 8. Very short chapters. We can't call them pericopes, but that's another explanation for another day. Meanwhile, what's going on? Do you remember where we left off last Friday? It seems like a year ago, but it was only a week. Pinocchio is at home, crying. He's lonely. He's hungry. Geppetto's in prison because of Pinocchio's mischief and Geppetto's tendency to lose his temper. But he's really hungry, and he's then feeling sorry for himself. As you recall, the chapter 5 ended with him remembering the cricket, telling, bad boys, you just get a lot of bad consequences. You should listen to your father. But he's so hungry, he decides he's going to go out into the town and beg for bread. So that's where we find him in the beginning of chapter 6, begging for bread. It's late at night. All the shops are closed. The people have closed their shutters. Everybody's sleeping. But he's so hungry, he decides to knock on the door of one of the homes, and an old man gets up and goes to the window, looks down at Pinocchio. "You're a rascal. What are you bothering me?" He says, "I just want some bread. I am so hungry. I'm so hungry." And the old man says, "Wait here." And then he comes back in a moment and he says, "Hold out your hat." Oh, Pinocchio, so grateful. He was going to get some bread. But instead, the old man threw a pail of water, the water down. Well, he didn't throw the pail. He poured a pail. He took a pail filled with water and poured the water down on poor Pinocchio, who's drenched. And besides that, it's thundering and lightning outside, so he's terrified. So he goes back home, just determined to starve and try to dry himself off. So he sits in a chair, and there's a little pot with some coals, that there's still some embers there. He thought, all right, I'll put my feet over the embers, and then he fell asleep. But while he fell asleep, those embers, with the temptation of those wooden feet of his at the top, decided to burst into flames. And although he sleeps through it, his feet are burned off. When he wakes up in the morning, he's like something's not right, but he can't tell what. But there's a pounding at the door. And who could it be but Geppetto, who's been released from prison? "Open the door," says Geppetto. "I will, father," says Pinocchio, and he stands up and he goes, of course he falls flat on his face. And there's back and forth repartee as Pinocchio tries to explain he can't walk. Geppetto doesn't believe him. Pinocchio tries crawling on his knees, and just at that point, Geppetto, not really understanding, comes in through the window. He sees his son without feet, and he hugs him and kisses him and caresses him and is filled with compassion for him. Now, of course, Pinocchio says, I'm really hungry, which was more important than eating his feet. Geppetto had gotten 3 pears, which he was going to use for breakfast. And it is breakfast time now. Pinocchio said, "Can I have them? Can I have them?" So Geppetto said, "All right, you may have them. I can do without." Pinocchio says, "I want them peeled." "What?" said Geppetto. "You said you're really hungry." "I want them peeled. I don't like peels." Does he sound like any kid you know? So Geppetto patiently, so overwhelmed to be back home and to see his puppet boy, he gently, patiently, which is quite a lot for Geppetto, peels the pears. Pinocchio eats them up immediately, and he's about to throw out the core and the peels. And Geppetto says, "Wait, don't do that." "What do you mean? I don't want them. I'm not eating them." He said, "We never know." So, as time went on, guess who gets hungrier and hungrier, and guess who ultimately eats the peels and the core but Pinocchio himself. Then he starts begging his father to, in the next chapter, begging his father to put his feet back on. And Geppetto says, I don't think so. I give you your feet, you're going to run away again. No, I won't. I promise I'll always be good. Geppetto repeats, Pinocchio, children always say they'll do whatever you want when they want something. No, I'll be good. I'll go to school. Geppetto chokes on that. No. But ultimately, because he has compassion and pity for his little puppet boy, he relents and makes the shoes. And then Pinocchio says, well, I do want to go to school, but I have nothing to wear. And Geppetto has no money to buy anything. He spent the last money on the pears. And Collodi gives us a little note that even children understand true poverty. So Pinocchio sort of starting to accept his lot a bit, and then Geppetto very cleverly makes him a suit of flour paper and a hat of breadcrumbs. Can you imagine? But Pinocchio says, I must have a school book to go to school. I cannot afford to get you a school book. I must have a school book. I can't go to school. I'll be ashamed. So Geppetto says, well, wait a moment. And then he puts on his jacket and he goes out into the town, and then he comes back in his shirt sleeves. What have you done? Here's your book, says Geppetto. Oh, that's wonderful, Father, but where's your coat? I was feeling too hot. I needed to get rid of it. And so we see what a parent will do, even for a pretty self-centered, selfish child, made of wood, no less. And so we shall see if the very next day, or in our next chapter next week, will Pinocchio go to school? Will he cherish this school book that his father has sacrificed so much for? Or will he be a typical boy? Thank you so much for joining me. Have a great weekend, everyone. Tomorrow we're celebrating the ordination of a new Paulist father who will be a priest, Father Eric Hernandez, his name will be. And if you wish to tune in, go to paulist.org at 10 a.m. Eastern Time, and you'll get to witness his ordination to the priesthood. Have a good night. Wonderful weekend, everyone. Good night.